And I find the family aspect of Penners to be the most fascinating to me, mainly because I have a younger brother with Down syndrome. I live here in Spring City. I live so close to this place, I can literally walk here. So to think that if we would wind back the clock to the 80s or 70s, this history would be affecting my family, where my brother would be living inside of this institution. So I always try to compare and contrast to the world of disability in 2025, what my brother goes through versus what was happening to the disabled individuals who are living here inside of this institution. If you wanted to see your children here at Penners, you know, prior to the lawsuit that hit this place in the 80s, it was very limited. A lot of things changed after Penners got sued because now the federal government is watching this institution. But prior to that, visitation was limited to Thursday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So 2 days out of the week, and there was a limited amount of hours that you were allowed to see your kids. And if you were going to visit your child here, you weren't ever going to see them in the ward that they were living in. They were going to be bathed, cleaned, looking real sharp, and they would have been brought inside of this building here. And in a way less stimulating environment compared to the overcrowded nature of the wards, as I mentioned, 50 to 1 in those wards. So the parents here weren't really seeing the true nature of this institution here. And with that being said, you know, a lot of people, you know, I've been asked all the time on tours, and I see a lot of people comment online, like, how could you send your kids here knowing how terrible Penners was? But the reality was, parents didn't know how horrendous this institution was, and once they did find out, there was nothing that parents could do to protect their children in this environment because a lot of it was mandated by the government. And a story that I want to share happened about a year ago on one of my history tours, where I had a history tour guest who had a family member who lived here at Penners. What's up, Matt?
Hold on. Anyone driving a yellow Jeep? No one? Okay. Sorry.
Cool. So about a year ago, I had a history tour guest who had a family member who lived here at Penners. She was telling me it was her uncle who lived here. She didn't get to visit her uncle, but she was telling me all these stories that were passed down in this family. What made this story so heartbreaking was they didn't want her uncle to live here. They were actually fighting in court to not have her uncle live at this institution, but he didn't have the cognitive and physical ability to live in the community on his own. Because that was the only reason you could have lived in the community and not been institutionalized, because that was your IQ or was your physical capacity to be able to live in the community. If you didn't meet those requirements, you were institutionalized in a facility like this. So they lost in court, and they were mandating for this child to be sent here to Penners. And what I found so heartbreaking was the relationship dynamic between the mother and her son. Because week after week, his mom was visiting her son inside of her visitation, and her son is crying to this mom for the mom, "Why am I here? Please stay. Don't go. Don't leave. I hate it here." And it destroyed this woman because week after week, she had to piece the words and explain to her son why he has to live in this institution, why she can't be there as a mother every single day, being taken care of by these complete strangers. And it got to a point where she stopped visiting her son here. Not because she stopped caring about her son. She stopped visiting her son here because it hurt less as a mother to stay at home than it did to come here week after week and see her son in pain inside this institution. And what that told me is that families were heavily affected by the institutional process. That Penners not only separated 10,000 individuals from the community, it separated over 10,000 different families. And I was always trying to figure out why were families not visiting their children here. Because on our history tours in the daytime, I have the amazing opportunity and privilege of working with former staff members who were employed here in the 70s and 80s. And they always tell me that they never saw families visiting their children here. And then I think back to this story where, families felt so much pain that they felt that they were entirely helpless, that they couldn't be there as parents anymore to defend their children in these institutions, no matter how much they hated it. And a lot of families would try to get their kids out of here, but once again, most likely they were either going to be sent to another institution because they weren't allowed to go back into the community because they met a certain cognitive and physical requirement to do so. But with that being said, before I take us over towards the hospital, is there any other questions that you guys want to throw my way before we keep moving along? All right, let's go walk. Let's go check out this whole part of the hospital. We'll start making our way around.
that's weird looking. Right? Right?
Don't embarrass it.
Ew,
Alright,
that
we're
is
gonna
weird.
stop right over here.
Yeah.
Look at that view over there. That is so gorgeous. Right behind me. I love that. If you're wondering why does it smell so terrible in this area, I promise you it's not dead bodies. Get asked that all the time. So right next to Penners is the
Here, get off.
sewage treatment
I'm trying to take pictures in your
facility.
knock.
That is what you're smelling over in this area. That smells so horrendous. I know, right? Behind you guys is what remains of the hospital. Unfortunately, the demolition of that building began last year. And once again, it's in response to Penners being privately owned. And with the one of the biggest liability risks that this property has today is people getting hurt on this property. And with Penners being so populated with urban exploration and paranormal and the history, a lot of people would like to trespass on this property. We get trespassers here every single day. I'm not lying about that. Every single day, we at least get one trespasser. And with that, the buildings are so dangerous, like the hospital was, the ownership will then make a decision. Better for us to do just demolish the space, or should we put money in and try to preserve it like other spaces that we have, such as Limerick and Industry Hall, for example. And the hospital is just one of those spaces that it was way too far gone. Like you walk on the first floor, you can see the basement. That was how deteriorated that first floor level was. But during operation, it operated as any other standard hospital in the area. They opened it up around the mid-1920s, around the time of the pandemic. And the hospital was operating at max capacity. The influenza pandemic was horrendous here. It killed lots of people. It was one of the biggest causes of death here on this institution, and also tuberculosis. That was another thing as well. But the hospital operated as any other standard functioning hospital in the area. If you needed treatment for an infection, a wound, surgery, even x-ray, anything like that, it was done by the doctors and nurses and staff inside of that facility here. And once again, it was all with the intention of keeping Penners entirely self-sufficient. So we're not going out into the community and using those resources. We're using everything internalized here at this institution. And you might be wondering, how did Penners afford this? Parents pay to have their children here? No, Penners was a free service. It was like applying for Medicaid or any other disability service today in 2025. Apply to the government to have child care here, and then the state would then be taking care of that, and it would then take your child and take care of Penners. So this was all taxpayer money, but Penners wasn't subsidized well, and that was one of the biggest issues that this place had all the way to the closing, was that there was hardly enough money to keep this place funded. And that grew a lot of animosity with the staff, because it's like, well, if the state doesn't care, why should we? And a lot of people that were living here at this institution suffered in response to that. But do we have any other questions before I keep us moving along over here? One thing that I find really interesting about the hospital area that I always think of, I forgot to mention, there's also one part of the morgue that was there on the hospital on the first floor level. Because now that we go towards the hospital, we talk about the medical side, people always ask me what happened whenever people passed away. So whenever people passed away with Penners, they weren't buried on property. They were going to be sent to a cemetery based on their county of origin. So if you were born here in Spring City, you would have been, or like in Chester County here in Spring City, you would have been buried around in this area. Vice versa, if you were born like Bucks, or Montgomery County, so on and so forth. But there is a cemetery on this site. It's just no longer owned by the current ownership that owns the 100 acres that we have today in the suburbs of Spring City. And what I find really fascinating about this cemetery is that it's an unmarked grave, which is so crazy because to live here at Penners, you had to be documented. This wasn't just like a place where you could just drop off your kids and forget about it. This was an official government process. Every human life that came here to Penners was a certified U.S. citizen and was living in the county surrounding the Philadelphia area. They weren't taking children from other states. This was all around the Philadelphia area. And I find it so fascinating that like people died here and they couldn't find any records of those individuals. So that kind of gives you like kind of this representation of how Penners in itself, while operating, wasn't doing a good job of keeping records of things. So we have a lot of stories that we don't understand what happened to these individuals. Lots of weird holes inside of individuals' patient files. And one thing I also find really interesting, whenever if you ever do our daytime historical tours, which I heavily recommend, you have access to the museum in those tours. A lot of our records that we have in the museum, I always pay attention to the causes of death. Because I always think that story is really fascinating. And a lot of our causes of death are just labeled as disability. And like imagine being a parent and you get a letter from the state saying that your child passed away and their cause of death was their disability. Like for example, there's a record I saw of a child who has epilepsy and they said their cause of death was epilepsy. It's like as a parent, how frustrating is that to not know what was the story, how the state failed and didn't keep your child safe when they were saying you're taking your children from the community because they're going to be safe, protected, educated in this environment. So I find that to be really suspicious. I don't really throw on my tinfoil cap, but whenever I see those death records and I find stuff like that, especially with missing files and stuff like that, especially with the unmarked graves, I find that stuff so fascinating. But any other questions before I keep us moving on the catwalk? And we'll go this way. We'll keep walking. Yo, Shelly, you gonna be here for Christmas?
Yeah.
You gonna be here next week?
Oh yeah. First Christmas.
Dude, I know, I can't believe that we're actually doing a Christmas event. I'm like so stoked about it. I already got my costume ready. I'm gonna do a toy soldier. That's what I'm gonna be dressed up as, yeah.
I have to keep an eye.
So you should go to Shot Guys. It's a pretty cool place.
Roseford? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be leading all the guys down there again. Yo, Johnny's addicted. He's addicted to this coffee arcade place that's in Roseford. Yeah, he loves it. I took him there one time and like he loves that place now.
I think that coffee's good.
Yeah, man. Yo, I gave Rodney an Xbox. He's like, yo, fuck the Xbox. We got Shy Guys in Roseford. I'm like, all right, I can play the games there.
You're the one who gave him the Xbox?
Yeah, yep. I gave him an Xbox, bro.
You didn't smash it, right?
I told, he was like, man, he's like, you don't want the Xbox. I'm about to kill him. And I'm like, all right, just throw it off your roof, bro. Whatever.
He does smash things.
Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, the Rodney got a kick out of that. He liked that.
I think it's a good stuff. You want it back to them?
Now,
All right,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I thought I was skinny than
Down there. There's trash cans down there, so if you walk down there, buddy. All right, we'll make a lot of
Huh?
It's not about walking on it's not about walking on coffee. It's 4 o'clock tonight.
While we're out here, let me grab our stuff out of the car.
We're breaking. What's that?
Twix, yeah. I've been on. He doesn't?
My fingers are cold.
Put them in your pocket. Well, you got them right here. My car's right over here, so. So, did you drive or did Shelly drive?
We're gonna be on the trail. It's going road again, but it's fun.
Where am I? Where are we parked, yeah?
There we are.
Yeah. Wee. Do you want this beanie?
Huh?
Do you want this beanie?
No, I have my beanie. I have this beanie.
Penhurst one.
You're fine. Do we want to bring the motion sensor? I don't know if I feel like carrying it.
Me neither. Yes. Yes, yes. Lock it.
Pop up in your pocket.
Lock it and put it in y'all pockets. Do you have a pocket?
Put it in your bag.
I can't. I got arms that can't really reach it.
All right, well, go sit your back down over there.
Okay. Do, 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 do. No. Boom, 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 boom. Hello. Stay until 3 in the morning. Dang it.
So I get all the activity.
I do have it with me.
So you should steer it before, so Silly's just here.
It's funny. I tested it before I left, and my wife jumped even though she knew what it was doing, what it does. She jumped.
Did you bring it?
Yeah, I got it.
Of
course, that thing worked. That thing worked like a charm last time.
It did. I'm like, it's gonna be
Oh,
contamination.
I brought it to the opera house.
Hey, I don't care. It'll create stuff.
You might scare somebody.
Did you guys sign waivers yet or just getting here?
Oh, we signed waivers a long time ago.
You ready to do a history tour?
We did. We were up with Kate. He wanted to come to Devon.
Okay.
so-
Okay, you're good. Yep.
So where are we going?
Rodney goes where Rodney wants.
So where are we going? So where are we going?
Devon.
Okay. Well, yeah. Like what? Like what part?
You know what? We probably, if we could, we should probably take advantage of downstairs with no one else out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?